Hello friends, in this lecture we are going to understand the type of data structures available for the programming. You can see here the primitive data structure versus non-primitive data structure. Actually these are the two types or the two kinds of data structures available for the programming purpose. Data structure, as we all know, the data are the raw facts and the figures, and the structure means the organization of that data inside memory. So when we talk about the complete word data structure means a kind of organization where we can easily store, we can easily retrieve, or we can easily update the data inside memory. Whereas when we talk about the primitive data structure or the non-primitive data structure, primitive means the fundamental one. The data structure which is available for the programming, but that is a kind of a fundamental data structure which is used to hold the data of a single kind, whereas the non-primitive type of data structure is a kind of data structure which is the user defined, where we can store different type of data inside a single entity. Let's move ahead. You can see here in this figure the data structure is divided into two categories: primitive data structure and non-primitive data structure. In the case of primitive data structure, the simpler one, integer, float, character, pointers, all these are the fundamental data types which are available for the programming. But these fundamental data types like integer, float or character can hold a single kind of a value. An integer data type can hold integer value, float can hold only the float type of value, character can hold the character type of value, whereas pointer can hold the pointer type of value. Whereas in the case of non-primitive data structure, this is a kind of a user-defined data structure. This is further divided into two again categories: linear data structure and non-linear data structure. Linear data structure means the data structure which is sequential. Sequential means all the elements which are going to store inside the memory are in a sequence. Means the element which is stored after this first element is the second element. The element which is stored after the second element is the third element, whereas in the case of non-linear data structure, this is not the sequential type of data structure. It is a kind of a random type of data structure with certain mechanism to store and retrieve all those random values whenever required. When we talk about the linear data structure, we have arrays, linked lists, stacks, queues. These all type of data structures are the sequential type of data structures. Array uses contiguous memory allocation. Linked list elements are stored inside the node, with node having two different parts. One part is having the data for the program purpose, and another part is holding the pointer for accessing, for pointing the next node which is having the next data element. Stack uses the LIFO kind of data structure. Stack uses the LIFO kind of architecture, that is the element which is used, the element which is stored in last is the first one to be accessed, whereas the queue uses the FIFO kind of architecture, means first in first out. The element which comes first is the first one to moves out. Whereas in the case of non-linear data structure, we uses trees and graphs. Trees which are useful for the sorting or the searching purpose. Trees having a root node again further having the childs, which can be a left child or can be a right child. Further, these childs are again having, can become the root for the another childs for the another nodes. So in this way we can store multiple values, we can store multiple elements which which can be accessed, which can be stored, which can be retrieved with a certain mechanism. So here we have two type of data structures, two kinds of data structures: primitive data structure and non-primitive. Again, primitive is the fundamental one, whereas the non-primitive is the user-defined type of data structure. Again, primitive is divided into two categories: linear and non-linear. Linear means the sequential data structures, and non-linear means not sequential, sort of random, having certain mechanism, having certain organization to store, retrieve and update the data whenever required. Thank you.